My name is Ray Kuhl. I'd like to welcome all of you Cincinnati Academy of Medicine of Cincinnati members to this webinar. Today we're going to review how to improve internet speed and reduce cost of telecommunications service. That would be phone lines and internet. So I want to thank you each for your membership and your partnership with the Academy. We are honored at PBSI by our many-year relationship with the Academy of Medicine. PBSI provides technology services for the Academy itself and also for many, many members. And I want to thank you for your support of the Academy and our partnership together. So this will be a very brief webinar. The topic is important, but it won't take long to cover. So we're going to talk about why it's important and who might want to evaluate communication cost and how to go about that, what the benefits are of using an agent on your behalf, how to improve service responsiveness, and what the impact would be on future costs. So again, I want to thank you for your attention. Our goal today is inform and educate, not sell services. Of course, you're welcome to engage us and ask at the end of the webinar if you'd like follow-up, but this is intended to be informative. So many of you have known PBSI for years, and I want to thank you for, in some cases, decades of long-term partnership where we've provided technology services for your practices. And on the other hand, some of you, this is your first exposure to PBSI. So for those of you who don't know us, we provide technology services for healthcare practices, not only in greater Cincinnati, but throughout Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. Our base is in Cincinnati. This is where our home is. And those of you who are members of the Academy are right in the center of our support center. So one of the most important things to know is we have lots of experienced staff. 27 of our current staff have been with us for 10 or more years. And what that means is really excellent service. So as CEO of the organization, I'm honored to be a part of a group where we have so many dedicated and talented staff. Our focus is technology services, including telecommunications and phone systems. So today we're going to talk about that one component, telecommunication. How can you reduce cost and improve service? So what we find in a typical medical office, things are busy. We're not paying attention, and that's not a critical comment. That's true of all of us. Our lives are busy, and so if you find yourself in a situation where you have not reevaluated your telephone line and your internet costs and potential of bundling within the last couple of years, you almost certainly are spending more money per month than you need to. So to evaluate this, conversely, you'll almost certainly save money. Most practices will save at least $100 a month if you have more than a handful of phone lines. The important thing to know is that carriers, and we're partners with these carriers, so we just understand the mindset, whether it's Cincinnati Bell or Spectrum/Time Warner or others. The motivation from a business point of view is if you have an agreement in place with the customer and they're paying X dollars per month, why go and introduce something that's less expensive to them unless you need to? It's simply a premise of business that is well entrenched and easy to understand. So what's the solution? Using a telecommunications agent, and there are others in the Cincinnati area, you're welcome to use any agent. If you have an existing agent with which you have a relationship, great, approach them. PBSI is one of the choices available. So the benefit of an agent is that we can get competitive bids and do get competitive bids from all carriers, not just your current carrier, and we negotiate on your behalf. So before you see a quote from an agent, we know how this works, we know what bundles are available, so there is no mindset of a carrier to quote something that would be not necessarily their best option. So we receive, an agent receives options and recommendations, and then we present those to a client and give you the choices. Who now is available providing service in your area? 3 years ago, maybe Spectrum didn't have a line in your area, now maybe they do, or maybe fiber wasn't available in your area a year ago and now it is. So why would you engage an agent? And when should you engage an agent? This is really important. Actually, it's important that you get your first quote from an agent, because here's what happens. When you contact your carrier and they issue a quote, the quote they're going to give you, for better or worse, is whatever it is. It may be the current bundle, it's maybe not, but the policies most carriers enforce is once an initial quote is issued, all carriers and agents who come after for that same customer are required to quote exactly that same rate. So in other words, your ability to negotiate and have an agent on your behalf saying, wait a minute, down the street we did something for another practice where the installation was free or something, that ability is gone. Once a quote has been issued, you have received your best price, regardless if you then contact an agent. So agents introduce competitive pricing, which is just really for the benefit of clients. And then another thing to know is agent services are free. So that means for all agents, whatever you pay to Cincinnati Bell or Spectrum or whoever your carrier is, you pay directly to the carrier at the carrier's quoted rate. In other words, you pay no fee for the use of an agent. So some agents charge a fee, either a % of first-year savings, or they'll charge a consulting fee to do this analysis and give these recommendations. PBSI does these things at no charge. So what does PBSI benefit? We earn a small recurring commission, but it is recurring from the communication carrier, so we're motivated to, on your behalf, continually make sure that you have the best arrangement in place, and but there's no fee to the end user. So Cincinnati Bell or Spectrum pay, PBSI practices do not. So what are some reasons you might want to use an agent other than you'll simply get a better cost? So with experience comes the knowledge of how things work in the industry and how to find the best offer. And then beyond that, you'll see some other areas where we have found experience really comes into play that's helpful. So PBSI's customer is you, not the telco carrier. So without an agent, telco carriers typically, if you signed up for a 1-year or a 2-year or a 3-year agreement back 1 or 2 or 3 years ago, carriers are motivated to auto-extend. Same pricing, we've decided to keep your pricing the same, we'll extend you for another year or 3 years or whatever. And typically that is what happens unless you have an agent asking questions or unless you make a phone call to the carrier. But again, when you make the phone call, then whatever price you receive is the best price you will get. So an experienced agent will negotiate. Both the carrier and PBSI know that in your particular location, both Spectrum and Cincinnati Bell and whoever else have services available, and they know that just as we do. So they know they're in a competitive environment, and hence you'll get your best price. So when you port, so let's say you do change carriers, which doesn't always happen. We see that extending from Cincinnati Bell to Cincinnati Bell is very frequent, and the same thing with Spectrum. Well, if you do change, then the changeover is called a port, and that porting process from old to new involves some risk because each phone number is specifically identified, which number is the fax number, what's your 911 line, and so forth. And if any of those details are wrong, then when that porting takes place, the new carrier takes over and all of a sudden something doesn't work. And who screwed it up? Well, if you have an agent involved, one, we know all the issues to look at on the front end to ask the right questions and make sure we've gotten the paperwork correct, because it's one thing to fill out the paperwork correctly with Cincinnati Bell, and they're not a fault of theirs, they're a quality provider. It's another thing to make sure that the order was actually entered on their side with the right phone number, so those things can be double checked in advance of actually turning it over go live day. And on day of transition, sometimes things are perfectly smooth, no issues at all, and you don't need any outside help. But when that time comes when all of a sudden your fax stops working, having access to an agent who has the inside track to support from the carrier can be really important. Experience helps prevent and diagnose lots of issue. So ongoing, then, service quality also tends to be better. So we all have seen it happen where service is out, the internet's down, and we're not sure why. Well, there are ways that on the internet or by phone you can call and you can find out, well, there is an outage in your area, or there's some other reason where this is an understood issue, no problem. But you really can't get, frequently, you can't get to somebody live, and you certainly can't get an updated status with any accuracy. An agent can. We have a direct inside customer service line that gets to priority service and accurate information really quickly. So it can be really helpful day to day, doesn't matter. When there's a problem, it matters. So another key thing is in the future. What happens when your telco contract is near expiration life? So I'm not sure what other agents do, but we have a rigid procedure at PBSI where 6 months before your contract expiration, we contact you. We ask, what changes do you see? What changes would you like? Fewer lines, more lines, what changes? How's your internet speed? And so forth. Any plans to add locations or change something? Once we understand that, we will contact your current carrier and other carriers again for newest and best bundles. So well in advance of your renewal date, your best price contract is ready and it's been handled and done in advance. So otherwise, you may be automatically renewed and you have another year at the same price and so forth. So having an agent is just really helpful now and in the future. So just some recent examples. There are all kinds of examples. Small practice in Cincinnati, 12 phone lines, actually not that small, and they had an internet where the connection speed was 1.3 megabytes. For those of us who aren't technical, that may not mean a lot, but in today's terms, that's not that fast. 5 years ago, that was really fast. So after negotiating with carriers, getting quotes, they're now paying $335 a month for the same number of lines, but their internet speed is up dramatically. So they save $156 a month and internet much better. So another smaller practice, this one had 6 lines, we're paying $408 a month. Now they're paying $279 a month, and again, their internet speed has increased. So the internet speed can be the really important number today is the second number, and typically we find that at 5 megabytes or 10 megabytes or 20 megabytes, we can, because carriers offer now much improved speeds over just 1 and 2 and 3 years ago. So you save money, increase bandwidth, and especially for those practices who are using cloud-hosted services like your EHRs in the cloud, really, really important to include that speed. Since we also do other IT and technology support, we also know to look at your firewall. The speed and the age of your firewall is actually a really key, relevant piece of information in evaluating what kind of speed gets delivered to you. If you have a 5 megabyte connection available and your firewall is an old firewall and its processor isn't fast enough, you may be limited in the speed that's actually getting to the PCs, even though the telco connection has plenty of bandwidth, it just can't be delivered to your desktop. So we know to look at that, and we will do that in each case. So bottom line, savings, it's unusual. Again, if it's been more than a couple of years and you have more than 5 phone lines, it's unusual that we don't find a savings of at least $100 a month, which is no small change. So that's really the sum of this message, that if you haven't had your service evaluated, we can do it for free on your behalf. There is no obligation, and this is really important. So you approve PBSI being your agent, we get quotes for you. You choose to do nothing, no issue at all. You're not obligated to PBSI. You simply are authorizing us on your behalf to go get pricing and from multiple vendors, and there's no term to it. So you could ignore recommendations and do whatever you want to, and there's no ramifications. So this is good news for most practices. It's free, it's easy, you can save money. So hence this information for Academy members. Know that your Academy on your behalf has asked us to look at what are some of the issues in the healthcare world where practices should be informed that benefits can be received with just a bit of knowledge. And so that's what we hope we've provided today. So I want to thank you for your attendance. This webinar is finished. I hope everyone has a great day. And again, appreciate your partnership with the